Nobody in this classroom realizes that the man looking at them with total disgust is the same fat loser they treated like garbage just months ago. Back then, he was the school's 300-pound punching bag, a guy who took every insult and every hit with a smile just to survive the day. But the bullies made a fatal mistake. They targeted the only person who loved him, sending his girlfriend to the hospital in critical condition. That day, the nice guy died. He spent months in a literal hell, transforming his body into a weapon designed for one thing: extinction. Now, he's back at school, and nobody recognizes the man standing in front of them. The bullies are still laughing in the back of the room, looking for their next victim, having no idea that the predator they created is finally ready to collect his debt. The hunt has officially begun, and trust me, they are not ready for what's coming. It all started on one ordinary morning, when some random nobody decided to walk into Soon's classroom and start collecting money, protection money, from students in a school. And when one of the guys in the class refused to pay, this collector did not just ask again. He beat him badly, brutally, the kind of beating that makes everyone in the room look away and pretend they are suddenly very interested in their desks. Now, standing nearby was a guy named Soon, and Soon, to his credit, could not just stand there and watch. So he did what any reasonable person would do in that situation. He took the sandwich he was eating and shoved it straight into the collector's mouth. Just like that. Problem solved. Except, of course, it was not solved at all. Because then, Hachin walked in. Hachin was Soon's girlfriend. Everyone expected her to come in, see the chaos, and try to calm things down. That is what girlfriends do, right? They step in, they say the right thing, they de-escalate. Except Hachin did not de-escalate anything. She walked straight up to that collector, grabbed his arm, twisted it behind his back, locked his neck in a chokehold, and beat him so badly he could barely breathe. She did all of this with the kind of casual efficiency that suggested this was not her first time doing it. And let us be honest here, watching a girl dismantle a grown guy like that is not just impressive. It is terrifying. Kiziak, the leader of the group this collector belonged to, was not happy. Not happy at all. One of his guys had just been destroyed by a girl, and that kind of thing travels fast in a school. So Kiziak did what every coward with a little bit of power does. He sent someone to mess with Hachin's uniform. Ink. Everywhere. And because everyone in that classroom was too afraid of retaliation to stand up and say what actually happened, there were no witnesses. None. But Soon was there. And Soon did something that nobody expected. He did not explode. He did not charge at Kiziak's crew. He walked up to Hachin, took off his own shirt, draped it over her shoulders, and gently guided her out to go change. That was it. That was his response. No anger. No scene. Just quiet, steady care. And that is exactly what made Kiziak's guys nervous. They watched Soon leave the room, and they could not figure it out. Why was he so calm? Why did he not react? One of them even pointed it out loud, but Kiziak told them not to worry. He said that eventually Soon would come looking for them, and that they should just wait. He was right. Soon moved fast. He showed up at the spot where Kiziak's crew usually hung out, walked right in, and did not even flinch. The whole group was there. They outnumbered him, and they were all watching him like he had just walked into a cage of wolves. But Soon did not care. He went straight to Kiziak and laid it out simply. All Kiziak had to do was apologize to Hachin and pay for a new uniform. That was it. That was the deal. Kiziak, of course, played dumb. He laughed it off, pretended he had no idea what Soon was talking about, and then stood up with this smirk on his face. He started tapping Soon's stomach, mocking him, testing him, seeing how far he could push before something snapped. One of Kiziak's guys lost his patience first. He stepped forward, called Soon every name in the book, and lunged at him. He never got close. One punch. That is all it took. One single punch. And the guy's face went completely sideways. Soon did not even celebrate. He just looked at the rest of them and said it out loud. He was going to have to deal with all of them. What happened next shook the entire school building. Kiziak's guy got up, bleeding, screaming at his friends to help him, and two more of them rushed in. The first one got kicked so hard he flew through the air and never touched the ground until Soon was done with him. The second one got picked up, thrown over Soon's shoulder, and slammed into the concrete. Same result. Different guy. Same outcome. By the end of it, 3 of Kiziak's men were on the ground, and Soon was the one breathing hard. He had given everything he had. His body was running on fumes. Kiziak watched the whole thing, and instead of being scared, he actually clapped. He genuinely applauded. And then he smiled that dangerous smile and stepped forward. He told Soon he looked tired. He offered him a deal. Kneel down. Apologize. And Kiziak would make his life in that school a whole lot easier. He even threw in a compliment, saying Soon had a kind heart, just like his girlfriend. Soon refused, calling Kiziak a loser who used other people to do his dirty work. And that is when Kiziak stopped being polite. He asked if Soon was trying to provoke him into throwing the first punch. And Soon did not wait for the answer. He lunged. He grabbed Kiziak around the waist and tried to force him to the ground. One clean takedown. One punch. That was the plan. Simple. Brutal. Effective. Except Kiziak was ready for it. The moment Soon locked on, Kiziak wrapped his legs around him and used his own momentum against him. In seconds, the roles reversed completely. And Kiziak was laughing. Actually laughing. Like this was exactly where he wanted things to end up. He tightened his grip around Soon's neck, and the air started disappearing from Soon's lungs. Soon could feel his consciousness slipping. He could not breathe. He could not move. He was trapped. And just then, Haechan appeared. She saw what was happening, and something inside her broke. She did not hesitate. She kicked Kiziak directly in the head with enough force to completely warp his face. Kiziak stumbled back, completely disoriented. And for a moment, he genuinely did not understand what had just happened. When he finally processed it, he turned to Haechan with rage in his eyes. He made threats. He grabbed her by the hair. But Haechan was not afraid. She looked up at him and asked him, calmly, if he had ever got hit by a girl before. Kiziak snarled at her. He was about to find out exactly how much force he could put behind a swing. He swung. Haechan moved like water. She dodged, closed the distance in a single step, lifted Kiziak clean off the ground, and slammed him into the concrete so hard the sound echoed off the walls. He did not get up for a long time. And when he finally tried to, Haechan was already on him. She locked his arm, twisted it behind his back, and started pulling. Kiziak was screaming. He was begging her to stop. He was saying anything, everything, just to make the pain stop. Haechan did not stop. She asked him what he did wrong. He listed everything. The ink on her uniform, the bullying, all of it. She kept pulling. Kiziak kept confessing. And finally, when she had extracted every single admission out of him, she let go. She turned to the rest of his crew and looked at every single one of them. Her message was clear. If any of them ever touched anyone again, they would not walk away in one piece. Then she turned to Cian, and her entire demeanor shifted. She became gentle. She told him to come with her to the medical room. Cian refused. He said he just needed to rest for a moment. Kiziak's second in command, a guy named Runsock, realized they had a problem. They had not finished collecting the money they were supposed to collect, and if their boss found out, there would be consequences. Kiziak snapped at him to be quiet and let him think. And then he muttered to himself, wondering how a girl could even do something like that. Later that day, when school was over, Haechan found Cian and immediately started checking on him. She could see it in his face. He looked pale. He looked like he was about to pass out. Cian tried to brush it off, but Haechan was not buying it. She even jumped on his back, riding him like he was a horse, and started lecturing him about how he fought like a child. She had been trying to get him to train in jiu-jitsu for months. He kept refusing. Cian turned away from her, clearly annoyed. He told her he did not need her worrying about him. He was not a little kid anymore. Haechan got quiet for a second. Then she got annoyed too. The two of them went back and forth like that all the way to the school gate. Neither one of them was going to be the first to back down. And in the end, Sun just walked off. He told Haechan he had something to do and could not walk her to her martial arts gym that evening. Haechan watched him leave. She only wanted to walk with him a little longer. That was all. When Cian got home, he pulled out his phone. He started typing a message to Haechan. He wanted to ask if she was okay. He wanted to say something, anything. But every time he started typing, he deleted it. He put the phone down, lay on his bed, and stared at the ceiling. He was frustrated with himself. He kept telling himself he was pathetic. But then, after a while, something in him settled. He pulled the blanket over his head and whispered to himself that everything would be fine tomorrow. Outside, the sky had gone completely dark, and then his bedroom door flew open. His father was standing there, out of breath, and the look on his face was one that Sun had never seen before. He was not angry. He was not scolding. He was terrified. He screamed Haechan's name. Cian did not fully understand what was happening yet, but something in his gut told him that the world had just shifted underneath him in a way that could not be undone. Haechan was in the hospital. She was lying in a bed, connected to an oxygen machine, her body covered in bruises, so deep and so severe that the doctors were not done assessing the damage yet. Outside the room, her parents were falling apart. Her father could barely stand. Her mother was shaking so badly, she could not form a single sentence. Soon arrived at the hospital in a state of complete panic. He had not even put on shoes. His shirt was soaked through with sweat, his breathing was ragged, and there was blood on his feet from running barefoot through the streets. He found Haechan's father and asked where she was. Where Haechan was, what happened to her? Her father could not answer. He just stared at the ground. Haechan's mother turned to Seon, tears streaming down her face, asking him what happened. What did this? Soon stood there, frozen, trying to piece together something that did not make any sense to him yet. Behind him, Soon's own father caught up, holding the shoes Soon had left behind. He handed them over and told his son to calm down and put them on. Soon's hands were shaking so badly, he could barely hold them. He started explaining. Haechan had left school at the same time as him that evening, but Soon had not walked her to her gym. He had told her he was busy, so she went alone. Just then, a man stepped forward and interrupted him. He showed a badge. He was a detective from the Criminal Investigation Unit. He pulled Soon aside, away from the family, and started asking questions. When was the last time Soon saw Haechan? Where were they? What time? Soon answered everything, but then he stopped and asked the detective why the Criminal Investigation Unit was involved. This was not just a simple assault case. The detective confirmed it. This was being investigated as a gang assault. Haechan had been found in an alley next to an office building. She had been beaten somewhere else and then dragged there, unconscious. The injuries on her face were consistent with being punched repeatedly, with the right side of her face taking the worst of it. But the most severe injury was to her left knee. The detective paused before explaining the rest. They believed the attacker had used a specific technique, a deliberate joint lock, designed to shatter the kneecap. Soon felt like the ground had been ripped out from under him. He could not process how this had happened so suddenly. And then something clicked in his mind. He remembered Kiziak. He remembered the way Kiziak moved, the way he fought, the technique he used when he pinned Soon down earlier that day. Soon looked the detective in the eye and told him. He asked if Kiziak was involved. He told him Kiziak had martial arts training, something called jujitsu. The detective noted it down and said he would factor that into the investigation. Then the door to Haechan's room opened. The doctor stepped out. Haechan's parents immediately rushed forward. The surgery had been successful. That was the first piece of good news anyone had heard all night. Haechan's mother broke down crying and thanked the doctor over and over again. But the doctor was not finished. The ligament in her left knee had been completely severed. With consistent rehabilitation, she would eventually regain full function. It would not affect her daily life in the long run. However, the doctor added something that landed heavier than any physical injury could. In cases like this, the psychological trauma is almost always worse than the physical damage. He recommended that the family pursue both physical and mental health treatment simultaneously. Haechan's father held his wife in silence. There was nothing else to say. Son was standing behind a wall the entire time. He heard every single word. When the conversation ended and everyone moved on, he pressed his back against that wall, covered his face with both hands, and held back everything that was threatening to pour out of him. That night, in the hospital, the room was dim and quiet. Everyone who had come to see Haechan was gathered around her bed, and not a single one of them said a word. They did not need to. The bruises on her face told the entire story. Her face was so swollen, so distorted, that she was almost unrecognizable. Son stood completely still. He stared at his best friend's face, and something inside him broke. He clenched his jaw so tight it hurt. He fought with everything he had to keep the tears from falling. And slowly, something changed in his eyes. The grief was still there, but underneath it, buried deep, something else was growing. Something cold, something that had teeth. A few days later, Son walked into the police station. He did not knock. He did not wait to be invited. He walked straight up to the officers handling the case and started demanding answers. He told them the alibis they had collected were fabricated. He asked them how long they had been investigating and why they had found nothing useful. He asked about the surveillance cameras. One of the officers, Officer Jiang, got angry. He told Son to watch his mouth and reminded him that the police were not dedicated solely to this one case. Another officer, Officer Na, calmed things down. He explained that the camera on the office building next to the alley where Haechan was found had been broken and it was already scheduled for repair. He told Son they were looking into the building and trying to gather footage from other cameras in the area. Son's eyes drifted to something on the desk. A file about the gold office building. Officer Na noticed where Son was looking and immediately closed it. He told Sun that if there were any updates, they would contact Hachin's family, and that Sun needed to stop coming to the station. Sun stood there for a moment, completely silent. Then he said it out loud. The school told him to talk to the police. The police told him they did not have enough evidence, and so Kasak was just walking around free. Officer Jiang bristled at the tone. Officer Na said nothing. Sun turned around. His face was blank, tired, and then he looked back over his shoulder, and his eyes were completely different. They were sharp. They were locked on something that no one else in that room could see. He told them he would handle it himself. Officer Jiang started to react, but Officer Na grabbed his arm and stopped him. After Sun left, Officer Na turned to his colleague and said something quietly. He told Officer Jiang that when he has a chance, he should look into what that kid was planning. That night, Sun was waiting outside the gold office building. It was dark. It had been dark for a while, but he was patient. He sat there, completely still, and waited. Eventually, Kasak came out. He was with his girlfriend, and they were both laughing, talking about how well everything had gone that evening. Runsak came out right after them with a girl of his own, and he was congratulating Kasak, telling him he looked incredible tonight. Kasak noticed Sun immediately, and Sun noticed them. Sun stood up slowly. He told them that he had been wondering if he was wrong about them being involved, but seeing them here, at this exact location, confirmed everything. He stepped closer. He called them every name he could think of. He wanted to know which one of them did this to Ha-Chin. Kasak's girlfriend reacted first. She was horrified. Runsak looked like he had seen a ghost. Kasak, on the other hand, smiled. He walked up to Sun casually, almost playfully, and asked how Sun knew he would be here. He asked if Sun had been waiting for him. Sun told him he owed Sun an explanation. Kasak tried to laugh it off one more time, but Sun did not let him finish. One punch. Clean. Devastating. Kasak went flying. Kasak's girlfriend screamed. Runsak panicked. Sun moved to Runsak next, and before Runsak could even process what was happening, he was on the ground, bleeding, with Sun still standing over him. But Kasak was already back on his feet. He came at Sun from behind, and this time he was not playing. He was not smiling. He was holding a piece of concrete in his hand. Sun turned just in time to see him coming. Kasak dodged Sun's punch, dropped low, and wrapped himself around Sun's legs. The momentum carried them both to the ground, and Kasak landed on top. Sun struggled. He tried to break free. He tried everything he had. But Kasak had him locked down completely, and then Kasak started hitting him, over and over. Each punch, landing exactly where it was supposed to. Sun's face was bleeding. Kasak grabbed Sun's arm and started bending it. He told Sun he was going to make him match his girlfriend. He called Sun worthless. Sun kept fighting, kept trying to resist, kept spitting defiance, even as his body gave out underneath him. Kasak laughed. He said he was going to break Sun's arm and see if Sun could still talk as much. But then, a voice cut through the darkness. It was calm, it was cold, and it did not belong to anyone who was supposed to be there. Kasak turned his head, and standing at the edge of the alley was a man. An older man, white hair, long and loose, and he was not wearing any clothes. Kasak stared at him, completely thrown off. He asked the man what he was doing, why he had no clothes on. The man did not answer that question. He simply told Kasak to let go of Sun now. Kasak did not move fast enough. The man stepped forward, and the energy in that alley shifted completely. Kasak could feel it. Something about this man was fundamentally different, something dangerous. Kasak released Sun's arm and stood up, but he tried to save face. He asked the man what business he had getting involved, and he pointed out that Sun had started the fight. The man did not even look at Kasak when he responded. He turned to Sun first, asked if he was okay, and told the rest of the group to disappear. Kasak's pride would not let him back down that easily. In a moment of reckless anger, he threw a punch at the man's shoulder. He shouted at him to mind his own business. The man glanced at Kasak. His expression did not change. He asked Kasak if he was curious about what the man was capable of. Kasak, despite the fear creeping into his chest, tried to act tough. He asked where the man had trained. The man lowered his stance slightly and told Kasak he was about to find out firsthand. Kasak swallowed. He tried to hold his ground. He asked what exactly that was supposed to mean. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Kasak, realizing what was happening, turned to Sun with pure venom in his voice. He threatened him. He told Sun that tomorrow at school, Sun was done. He was finished. The man told the police what was happening. A group of high school students was assaulting another student in an alley near an office building, and one of them had just threatened the victim on a live call. Kasak's face went white. He grabbed his crew and told them to run. They did not need to be told twice. Within seconds, they were gone, disappearing into the night. Like they had never been there at all. The alley went silent. Son was still on the ground, barely able to move, barely able to breathe. He looked up at the man who had just saved his life, and through the pain and the blood and the exhaustion, he managed to say thank you. His voice cracked when he said it. His eyes were wet. The man sat down next to him, and then, completely out of nowhere, he called Son a fat pig. Son blinked. He did not know what to say. He asked the man why he said that. The man looked at him with an expression that was almost amused. He told Son he knew who he was. He was Ha Jin's fat friend, the one she always showed him pictures of. Every single day, Ha Jin would show this man photos of Son, and now that the man was seeing him in person, he said Son looked even fatter than the pictures. Son did not have a response. His face turned red, and he just sat there in silence, absorbing it. The man shifted the conversation. He asked about Ha Jin. Was she still unconscious? Son nodded. He confirmed it. And then the man said something that stopped Son cold. He told Son that Kiziak was not the one who did this to Ha Jin. There was someone else involved. A whole group, in fact. Son's eyes went wide. He demanded to know how the man knew that. He asked if the man had proof, evidence, anything. The man shrugged. He said it was just a feeling. Intuition. Son sat there, stunned into silence. Intuition. That was it. That was his answer. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out a flyer. He held it right up to Son's face. It was a registration form for a jiu-jitsu gym. The man told Son something that would stay with him for a long time. He said that charging at Kiziak head-on 100 times would result in 100 losses. Every single time. If Son wanted to beat someone who played chess, he needed to learn how to play chess first. Son understood. The next day, Son stood outside the jiu-jitsu gym, staring at the entrance. He did the math in his head. Even if he pulled every single cent of his allowance, it was not going to be enough. But he decided to go in anyway, just to look around, just to see. Ha Jin had told him before that everyone at this gym was good people, kind people. He was in the middle of thinking about that when two voices came from right behind him, and both of them scared him half to death. Two men had walked up without him hearing a single footstep. They complimented his height, his build. They were genuinely impressed. Son, still rattled, asked who they were. They told him they were members of the gym. And then, without waiting for permission, they grabbed him by the arms and dragged him inside. Son tried to protest. He said he was not ready. They did not care. They shoved him through the door and started cheering like they had just brought home a trophy. Son looked around and immediately felt like he had made a terrible mistake. And then he noticed someone lying flat on the floor, in the middle of the gym, completely asleep, in the middle of the afternoon, on the training mat. One of the members walked over and started trying to wake him up, apologizing for the guy sleeping during the day. And when the man finally opened his eyes, Son recognized him immediately. It was the man from the alley, the one without clothes, the one who had saved his life. His name was Aeon. Son asked how someone could just fall asleep in the middle of a gym like that. Aeon barely seemed to register the question. When someone told him that a new member had arrived, Aeon looked at Son and immediately identified him. He told the others that this was Ha Jin's fat friend. The two members who had dragged Son and reacted like they had just met a celebrity. They had seen Son's photos before, the ones Ha Jin showed them every single day. And now, here he was in the flesh. Son, completely embarrassed, tried to back toward the door. He mumbled that he did not actually have enough money to join. But before he could leave, a voice from outside the door asked how much he was short. Son turned, and it was the gym's owner. The man asked again, how much did Son need? Son stammered that he was short a lot, and that he would come back another time. The owner kept offering discounts, and then one of the younger members spoke up. He had an idea. He said it would benefit everyone involved. The owner listened. The young member laid out a plan. He pointed out that Son had incredible height and bone structure. All he needed to do was lose weight. If they could document that transformation, it would be the single best advertisement the gym had ever produced. Jiu-jitsu as a sport, as a family, as a way to get in shape, to build confidence, to learn self-defense, and at the center of it all, a before and after story that no one could ignore. The room went silent for about half a second before everyone started talking at once. Even the owner, who had called this kid insane not 30 seconds earlier, was nodding along. The plan made sense. It was clean. It was compelling. It was exactly the kind of content that gets shared. Son tried to speak up. He tried to tell them that he had never agreed to any of this. Nobody listened. Within minutes, they had a full schedule laid out. 3 training sessions a day, aerobics, strength training, a strict diet. Aeon would handle the physical training. The young member would handle the marketing and promotion. 3 months. That was the timeline. The owner was practically glowing with excitement. He told everyone that the road ahead was going to be long and exciting. Sun tried one more time to slip out quietly. He made it about 3 steps before Aeon caught him by the back of his shirt and pulled him back. He told Son to go change and get ready. In moments like these, Son genuinely felt like he was dying. 3 months passed. After a grueling training session, the instructor finally called it a day. Son collapsed onto the gym floor, completely spent, gasping for air like he had just survived something apocalyptic. One of the other members sat down next to him and told him he had made incredible progress. Another one added that sparring with Son was genuinely exhausting now because of how tall he was. Someone else chimed in and reminded everyone about the 3-month weight loss project. And that is when everyone actually looked at Son properly for the first time in weeks. He was not the same person. The change was undeniable. His body had transformed. His jujitsu skills had sharpened to a level that surprised even the experienced members. Son smiled modestly and said he still had a lot of work to do, that this was just the beginning. But it was not just the beginning. It was already the result. His appearance had changed so drastically that the nickname they used to call him no longer applied. Not even close. Later that day, 2 older members sat together and talked about how fast Son had climbed the ranks. One of them joked that they were probably going to lose to him at the next tournament. The other one worried that the trainer had pushed him too hard. Someone else defended Son's progress by pointing out that it was the 2 of them who were simply not training hard enough. Everyone laughed. When the session officially ended and everyone gathered together, Aeon called Son over. He wanted to do a strength assessment. The idea of it made everyone nervous, Son included. Son curled up instinctively and asked if they really had to do it today. Aeon, looking completely drained, said he was too tired and wanted to go to sleep early. Son tried to use that as an excuse to skip it too. Aeon smiled gently and told him that if he skipped today, tomorrow's session would include everything he missed on top of everything already planned. Aeon straightened up immediately. He told Aeon that procrastination was a bad habit and that they should just get it done. After the assessment, the 2 of them headed to a park to finish up the remaining exercises. Son hung from a pull-up bar, his entire body shaking with the effort. Aeon counted out loud. Son pushed through every single rep while silently cursing the universe in every language he knew. When he finally dropped, he hit the ground hard and lay there, chest heaving. Aeon stepped up to the bar and started doing pull-ups like it was no different from breathing. Son watched him from the ground and muttered that not everyone was built like a superhuman. They trained until the sun went down. By the time the sky turned orange and the lights started fading, both of them were done. Son sat on a bench, eating ice cream out of a container with no shame whatsoever. Aeon sat next to him and pointed out that eating like that was going to undo all the progress they had made. Son did not care. He told Aeon that if he did not enjoy food, he would not have the energy to keep going. He asked Aeon if he wanted to try some. Aeon declined, but then the mood shifted. Aeon asked about Hajin. How was she doing? Son stopped eating. The spoon hung in the air for a moment before he lowered it back into the container. He said he did not know. He had not been able to reach her. Not since everything happened. The look on his face said everything his words did not. After the attack, Hajin did not wake up for 12 days. Her parents stayed at the hospital the entire time, barely sleeping, barely eating, just waiting. When she finally opened her eyes, Son ran to the hospital the moment he heard the news. But when Hajin saw him standing in the doorway of her room, she looked at him in a way that made him feel like he was not supposed to be there. It was not anger. It was not hate. It was something quieter, and somehow that made it worse. It was the look of someone who did not want to see anything that reminded them of what happened. And Son, for her, was exactly that. He left without saying a word. Her therapist later explained to the family that the psychological trauma had affected Hajin in ways that went far beyond the physical injuries. During her counseling sessions, she refused to see anyone outside of her immediate family. She did not want visitors. She did not want phone calls. She did not want reminders. A few weeks after that, Hajin and her family moved away from the neighborhood entirely. They relocated somewhere else to focus entirely on her recovery, both physical and mental. Aeon listened to all of it without interrupting. Then he asked if the police had said anything. Son's expression went flat. He said they told him the investigation was ongoing. He said it did not seem like there had been much progress at all. Aeon studied Son's face for a long moment. The way Son was staring into the distance, the way his jaw was set, the way his eyes had gone completely still. Aeon looked at Son and asked a question that hung in the air like smoke. Had Son found the people who did this? Was he planning something? Aeon's voice was steady, almost careful. He reminded Son that self-defense was one thing. Learning to protect yourself was understandable. But using martial arts to harm someone? That was disgraceful. That crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. Son did not respond. He could not. All he could manage, quietly, in his own mind, were 3 words. I am sorry. Aeon stood up, ready to leave. He told Son that this was as far as he could go with advice. In the end, Son was the one who had to decide how to live his own life. But the truth was, Son had already made his decision 3 months ago. The moment he walked into that gym, the moment he committed to the training, the moment he let the anger settle into something sharper and more dangerous, the decision had already been made. The break ended. School started up again for the new semester. On the first day back, Ki-suk stood in the school courtyard, talking to Run-suk. He reminded him that today was opening day, which meant they needed to be careful when collecting money. The rates had gone up again. It was almost hard to believe. Run-suk nodded. He said he would focus on collecting in the bathrooms. Ki-suk pointed towards Son's class and told Run-suk to make sure he collected from the fat kid too. Except, Son was not fat anymore. Son had not been to school in a while. He did not know if Son would even show up that day. The two of them kept talking, completely unaware that Son was walking right behind them, listening to every word. Inside the classroom, Ki-suk sat with his feet up on the desk, phone pressed to his ear, checking in with the others to see if they had finished collecting protection money yet. A girl from class walked up to him nervously and told him someone wanted to see him on the roof. Urgently, Ki-suk asked who it was. The girl blushed and stumbled over her words. She said she did not know, but that he was tall, had a great build, was handsome, and was completely different from Ki-suk. Ki-suk assumed it was his senior, down. The girl was not sure. Then she told Ki-suk to hurry up and go. Meanwhile, in the bathroom, a group of bullies had cornered a few students. One of them was trying to play it off like a joke. He told the victims not to make him angry, that people might think they were bullying them. He asked why would the victims not just accept their requests. Run-suk was in the middle of his speech when his phone rang. The voice on the other end told him that he couldn't come since Senior Down had called him, and he needed to go immediately. Run-suk hung up and told the others to focus. And that is when the bathroom door opened. Run-suk told him that if he needed to use the bathroom, he should use a different one. This one was occupied, but before the guy could finish his sentence, a voice cut him off. Long time no see. Run-suk turned around, completely unable to recognize who this was. He asked if this was a transfer student. He said it seemed like this person did not know who he was dealing with. Soon stepped forward and told the students behind the bullies to leave. He said he was responsible for cleaning the bathroom anyway, so why were there so many bugs in here today? One of the guys in the gang stepped forward. He asked Soon what he was talking about. He called him a brat, told him he was done for, said that just because Soon was a little taller did not mean he could act tough. Soon grabbed the guy by the hair, calmly, almost gently, and confirmed it. That was exactly right. And then, without hesitation, Soon punched him directly in the face. The guy dropped to the ground, foaming at the mouth, unconscious. The other stood there, frozen, completely unable to process what had just happened. Soon shouted at them to get out, but they were too scared to move. Finally, all at once, they bolted out of the bathroom. Run-suk tried to grab one of them as they ran past, asking where they were going. But before he could catch anyone, Soon kicked him directly in the side, sending him flying into the wall with a massive crash. One of Run-suk's friends got angry and charged at Soon. Soon dodged easily, then drove his fist into the guy's ribs. The guy screamed in pain. Another one with green hair rushed in desperately, but the result was no better. Soon grabbed him by the collar, yanked him backward, and slammed him onto the floor. Soon was not done yet. The guy with green hair looked up in terror as Soon's fist came down again, clean and precise, right into his body. Run-suk was panicking now, seeing someone this strong appear out of nowhere. He stammered, asking who Soon was, what this had to do with anything. Soon did not answer. He charged forward, grabbed Run-suk by the throat, and slammed him against the wall. Run-suk was shaking, begging for his life. Soon finally spoke, his voice ice cold. He told Run-suk to deliver a message to Ki-suk. Run-suk's face turned red, struggling to breathe, barely able to get the words out. He asked what the message was. Soon told him simply, The warm-up was done. It was time for a rematch. Meanwhile, Chuck walks on an empty roof where, as it turns out, there is no one and does not understand why he was called here. Suddenly Scott calls him, informing him that he has not managed to collect anything. Sitting among his friends lying on the floor, the guy warns Chuck that June is coming up to him. Not realizing that with Kato's voice, the guy heads for the door, but it suddenly opens abruptly, breaking his nose. After exchanging a few ironic phrases with Chuck, June punches him. The opponent lunges forward to hit the guy, but gets hit in the face again. Chuck grabs June's leg with the hope of knocking him down in the hold, but the hero makes another blow with the knee of his other leg, knocking out his teeth. Lying with the weight of his opponent pressed down, Chuck begins to make jokes about Gina. He laughs about how energetic and arrogant she was at first, but after the first blow, she begged for her life and tried to protect her face. June is about to raise her fist over Chuck's face, but Chuck suddenly starts laughing even harder. He reminds that on that day, the guy did not answer his girlfriend's calls, and if he had seen her off then, everything would have been different. Taking advantage of June's confusion, Chuck throws him off of him, slamming his back into the ground. The guy has weakened his defense, and now he urgently needs to take a defensive position. Chuck showers him with punches, but June manages to block them, and the opponent screams about how they hem off with Gina. At some point, the hero manages to grab him by the arms and kick him right in the face. June shares her hunch with Chuck that he didn't beat Gina alone that day and kicks him in the chest. Another second, and the hero finds himself on top of his opponent and, raising his hands over him, makes a decisive blow. He knows that Gina isn't weak enough to be beaten up by Chuck alone. With tears in his eyes, he promises to find every single person involved in order to take revenge 100-fold. Chuck cries, begging June to stop as he has already stopped seeing with his left eye. Holding him by the throat, the guy orders to name at least one of those who attacked Gina. Chuck assures that he knows nothing about it, and June uses the shoulder knot technique, threatening to break his shoulder joint. He counts to 3 before breaking his opponent's arm, and when he finishes counting, the opponent finally gives him a name / 2013 Dorian. June grabs him again because now he needs to find out if there were other people there. According to Chuck, he is just a small fry, and all he knows is that there was a meeting of members of several schools, to which Gina was later dragged. At this moment, one of the teachers climbs to the roof, who orders to let the guy go. Chuck laughs, confident that now June will definitely not be able to get out of it, because it is obvious who the victim is here. Getting up, the hero strikes him another blow, advising him to wait until the end of the story to find out who is really finished. June is standing in the principal's office, where Chuck's father is vomiting and throwing around, demanding that he be expelled from school. However, he doesn't even listen to what's going on around him, thinking that he should recover and learn more about the school alliance and Dorian. Chuck's mother silently enters the office and, ignoring her husband's screams, goes straight to June, screaming how dare he hurt her son. She swings to slap him, but the guy beats her hand away from him. Outraged by his behavior, she yells if he knows who he contacted. Kevin runs into the office and, rushing to his son, asks if everything is okay and if he is injured. Chuck's father notices June's father's sloppy look and declares that he is just as spoiled as his son. The woman yells at Kevin because it was his son who beat Chuck, who is now in intensive care. The man apologizes, asking what he can do for them, but she wants nothing more than to expel June from school. According to the principal, a school delinquency commission will be organized, but June's family should not hope for much. Kevin apologizes again to Chuck's parents and asks them to talk to both children to find out what happened, but the woman does not want to hear anything about this. She demands that the bandit get what he deserves and go to prison for what he has done. Kevin loses his temper. He forbids her to speak such things about his son and forgives her for such words only this time. Chuck's father begins to scream, mentioning his connections, which strains the director, who can now be convicted of corruption. He demands that June be kicked out of school immediately, noting that his father himself looks like an unemployed bandit. With a smirk, remarking that it turns out in this situation it is possible to use connections, Kevin begins to call someone. He puts the bell on speakerphone, and those present freeze, recognizing the voice of the chairman, who speaks with great respect to Kevin. June's father asks the chairman to do him a small favor and hands the phone to the reddened and sweating director. On the way home, the guy asks his father for forgiveness, knowing how he does not like to communicate with the chairman. Kevin asks him if what happened to Gina was the reason why June trained every day. He promises not to pull an answer out of his son, who apologizes to him, but offers to just say if he still decides to talk. Kevin only reminds June that violence cannot be justified by anything. The guy understands everything except one thing: why his father is not angry and does not scold him for what he has done. Kevin believes that his son has a worthy reason to do so. And besides, his wife's last wish was not to scold June and not to raise other people within the framework of concepts. A couple of days later, the hero returns to the gym where everyone is shocked by his appearance. June says that he fell while riding a motorcycle with his father and apologizes for his absence. Now, due to injuries on the guy's face, he will have to postpone the photo shoot for flyers. After listening to the story of the fall, the coach reminds June that those who use jujitsu not on mats become losers for life. Techniques can only be used to protect your own life or someone else's in the most extreme circumstances. Sitting next to Dylan after sparring, June asks him why Jason wasn't in training. As it turned out, the guy went to do PR for the gym and hand out advertising brochures. Junior does not understand why only 3 people go to such good classes. According to Dylan, when he first came here, it was full of people, but he never understood what happened next. When he asks if June called his girlfriend, he replies that he was never able to do so, not knowing if he has the right to do so. Dylan sees that the guy blames himself for what happened and decides to tell him something, although he is not sure if he has the right to do so. According to him, the girl always talked only about Juna, both when she came to the gym and when she changed clothes, and during training, and after. Dylan is sure that if she had to wait for one person, she would choose him without hesitation. It seems to the guy that Juna is still waiting for June to come to her. Chuck reports that he was unable to collect all the money because he had been in the hospital for several days. He tells Dorian how Juna's boyfriend started training and came back to get revenge. Taking off his jacket, Dorian orders Chuck to do the same to see if he has lost his fighting skills. A few seconds later, the already beaten guy asks the leader to stop, but he is going to stop only when he wants to. He beats Chuck until he foams at the mouth. Wiping the blood from his glove, Dorian orders Scott to collect the money by tomorrow and bring June to him. The guy is trembling all over because otherwise the leader promises to deal with him in the same way as with Chuck. In the early morning, June is standing outside the house from where June comes out on crutches accompanied by her mother. Approaching the guy, the woman admires the changes that have happened to him because if Kevin had not sent her photos, she would not have recognized him now. Juna listens silently to their conversation, not greeting June, who tries to keep it easy. She dryly suggests that he follow her if he is going to a cafe, and turns around. According to Juna's mother, the girl behaves this way because he came only today. Sitting in the cafe, Juna dryly answers the guy's questions about rehabilitation and asks why he came so suddenly. June tells her about her jiu-jitsu classes at her gym and how everyone there misses her. The girl regrets that all her good grades at school have now sunk into oblivion and she will have to take tests. When June asks if her grades were good, she suddenly gets angry and calls him a bore. Laughing, the guy notices that now she cannot call him that. Juna is embarrassed and, crossing her arms on her chest, says that she does not care. June is glad to see her like this because she looks much better than he imagined. According to the detective, she said she did not remember what happened that day due to shock and short-term memory loss. Now June is not sure whether to ask her about what happened because perhaps the memories are returning. Just as he wants to start talking, a loud bang is heard from which the guy twitches, but as it turned out, it was some man who closed the door too loudly. June turns to look at Jean and sees that she is sitting there, trembling all over and covering her head with both hands. The guy jumps up from his seat and rushes to calm her down, but she cries and asks not to touch her and call her mother. Now June realizes that her improved condition was just an appearance and what he needs to do now. Scott again oppresses weak classmates, threatening and demanding money from them. Suddenly June appears behind him, who asks if he knows Dorian. Having received an affirmative answer from the frightened Scottis, he demands that he be taken to him immediately. Dorian, who is sitting at the desk, is approached by a classmate who offers to spend time with the girls after school. But he refuses because he has to train and besides, exams are on the horizon. The friend does not understand why Dorian should start practicing now if he already has bad grades, but he believes that it is worth trying. Suddenly the doors of the classroom open and Cattle flies inside, who was kicked here by someone's foot. Dorian silently looks at June approaching him, walking forward with a confident step. Approaching his desk, The guy puts his hand on his notes and clarifies whether he came correctly. Dorian's friend is angry that this impudent man dared to come here like that. But the leader orders him to be silent because there is a lot of noise from him. He asks June if he beat up Chuck and asks about the reason for his visit. The guy demands that Dorian tell about everything that happened to Gina, but he does not understand who he is talking about. June asks him not to play a fool because he has a recording in which Chuck says his name and talks about a certain meeting. June knows that if he reports Dorian's name to the police, he will be in big trouble, but he is not going to do it. He wants to find anyone and everyone involved in Gina's beating and deal with them with his own hands. After looking seriously at June for a couple of seconds, Dorian suddenly says that he likes this guy and bursts into wild laughter. He promises to tell him everything he knows about what happened, but everything comes at a price and the guy will have to pay. With Chuck no longer able to do what he was doing before he was beaten, Dorian wants June to do it for him. He doesn't care at all how he does it, but Dorian will answer the question only after the guy has collected all the money. But since June does not consider himself a bandit who is capable of such a thing, Dorian offers him a fight as he wanted before. Swinging, the guy promises to tell everything he knows if the opponent manages to win the sparring. A teacher enters the classroom to whom Dorian explains that his friend just came to talk. After school, the friend again persuades Dorian to go to the party with them, but is again refused. Friends do not understand why the leader, earning so much money, does not buy himself new clothes. And at this moment, the phone in his pocket vibrates. Dorian reads a message in which his mother asks him to spend the night with friends, as creditors have come home again. He replies to his friends that he does not need clothes since he is always in training. After a short silence, he tells Luke that unfortunately, it looks like he's going to have to cancel tonight's party. June remembers Dorian's fist near her face and realizes that the opponent is so fast that he may not be able to handle him. Apparently, he is engaged in boxing, and he needs to find out from Jason how to fight in such cases. June's phone rings, he picks up the phone, and at that moment, those friends of Dorian block his way. The leader of the gang himself approaches him from behind, saying that he has some business to do. June turns around abruptly, but Dorian, praising him for his reaction, says that he shouldn't be so scared. According to him, he has an urgent matter, so he proposes to fight today, and tomorrow he will need to raise money. June agrees, and Dorian, assuring him that the three of them won't attack him, bends down to get something out of his backpack. Pulling out his boxing gloves, the guy pulls them on and asks them to fight as usual. According to him, he put them on so that June would not die when he hit him. Dorian begins to strike at such a speed that the enemy does not have time to come to his senses. Noticing that his face is not blocked, the guy delivers a decisive blow to his chin. June recoils and falls forward, and Dorian catches him and holds him, believing him to be unconscious. However, the opponent immediately clasps his hands in the grip, trying to lay the gloved big man on his shoulder blades. But the plan does not work. Dorian hits him in the chin with his shoulder. Taking the situation into his own hands again, he talks about impudent people who consider jujitsu to be the most powerful martial art. According to Dorian, it's because these people have never been in truly shitty situations. He promises a bleeding June that they will never bother him again, but he should not meddle in their affairs either. According to Dorian, he is also sorry that this happened to Gina. Looking into his eyes, June forbids him to say her name with his dirty mouth. Thinking that he is not going to give up right now since he has not even started the fight yet, he rushes at Dorian. However, the opponent squeezes his shoulders with his hands and swings his leg to strike. Putting June on his knees again, Dorian asks him to remember that the strong always devour the weak and nothing will change in the world. As proof of his words, he states that the guy will not receive any information from him. At this very moment, Dorian's friends notice that some long-haired man is literally flying towards their leader. However, the guy again shows his incredible speed of movement, and now he already hits Jason in the face. While Dylan asks June about his condition, Peter laughs at Jason for missing a punch. Dorian can't believe that his opponent is standing as if nothing had happened, rubbing his cheek, because he put all his strength into this blow. Luke walks up to Peter, puts his hand on his shoulder, and asks who they are and why they are interfering in their affairs. Suddenly, Peter starts shouting loudly that his shoulder hurts, falls to his knees, and asks passers-by to call an ambulance. Dorian asks Jason who he is and how he managed to survive such a blow. The guy suggests that it's all because his 7-year-old nephew beats him like that. Noticing that there are too many witnesses around, Dorian turns around and leaves, promising to see each other soon. However, he will not be able to leave, since the police officers who have arrived at the call are already standing next to Jason. After a while, the entire company, led by Dorian, sits in the police station across from June and Jason. According to the accused, they were just sparring because he was wearing boxing gloves. However, the police officer considers the testimony of the victim to be more weighty, after talking with whom he will decide whether to contact the school or not. Dorian is nervous, because if things come up, he will not be able to participate in competitions, and he can simply forget about raising money. However, he remembers that June was not going to interfere with the police, because in this case he would not get the information he needed. Contrary to his expectations, the guy suddenly declares that it was not sparring, but he was attacked, and this is absolutely certain. In the evening, June goes with Jason to a cafe for dinner, and Jason asks how long he is going to continue this. Jason realizes that the guy was fighting to get information regarding what happened to Gina. He does not understand why June is doing this, and whether he is going to fight everyone involved in this case. Jason hopes that the guy will be able to stop in time because the investigation is still ongoing. However, June does not want to hear about it because Gina is still suffering, and he is going to protect her with his methods. After all, those bastards walk free without crutches or injuries, and he wants to find them and make them experience what she experienced. Deciding to close the topic, Jason tells June that since he has eaten too much, he will now go for a run. Dorian receives a message that he will not be able to participate in the competition because he did not have time to pay the fee, as well as due to a notification from the police about his detention. Suddenly, a familiar tattooed hand knocks the phone out of his hand. Enraged by Dorian's silence, Jack grabs him by the hair and orders him to stop looking at him with that gaze. Laughing, he squats down opposite the guy and lights another cigarette. Jack does not understand that it is difficult for Dorian to work for them until he pays off the debt, and even promises not to raise the interest. He laughs at the fact that Dorian's father left him and his mother, and advises him to accept that his life is already ruined and start using his power. Jack's offer is legal, unlike extorting money from school children, and he did not manage to do this either. Casting a glance at Dorian's mother, trembling in the corner, the creditor ironically offers to provide her with a good part-time job. The guy promises to pay Jack next month for 2 at once, including this one. Otherwise, if he fails to pay the debt, he gives his word to do whatever he is told. Shaking the ashes from the cigarette right onto the floor, Jack agrees to the guy's proposal and leaves. After meeting with his friends, Dorian tells them to raise money and promises to deal with June when he returns to school. In the meantime, he is going to deal with the long-haired man who then called the police. Jason enters the hall, dressed in a suit and with his hair tied up in a ponytail. Fans can't believe they see him in such an elegant look and think he's going on a date. The man says that he will miss the training session, as he is going to a meeting on business with his former colleague. Jason walks down a busy street, talking on the phone with a girl annoyed by his lateness. Suddenly, some guy runs up to him with a request to help his friend, who is being beaten nearby. Jason follows him down a dark alley, where Dorian is already waiting for him. Since the man reported him to the cops, and because of this, the guy was at a disadvantage, he decided to play dirty this time. Jason stares at him silently, and at that moment, the guy who brought him here, standing behind, swings a bat at him. The hooligans do not have time to understand anything, when suddenly a girl appears from somewhere who snatches a bat on the fly. Lowering her glasses and laughing, the girl calls Jason a bastard for having fun here without her. The guy, trying to snatch his bat from her hand and calling her grandmother, advises the girl to go about her business. Letting him call her, the girl asks to call her Nuna from now on and gives him a chance to improve. However, the guy does not have time to call her grandmother again as he receives a powerful blow to the neck from which he begins to suffocate. As soon as the ability to talk returns to him, he expresses himself to Nuna with obscene words, for which he receives a bat on the legs. Pointing the bat at the remaining 3 bullies, she suggests that they attack her all at once as she will get bored dealing with them one by one. Approaching her, Jason suggests that she stop as she might accidentally kill someone and get into trouble. Nuna is amused by his righteousness and long hair, and the man replies that he just didn't have time to get a haircut. One of the hooligans decides to interrupt a cute conversation between 2 adults. However, the next moment he gets hit in the face with a bat and falls unconscious. Nuna hits the hands of the next attacker, knocking the bat out of them to the wild screams of the teenager. Only Dorian remained standing, who could not understand who it was in front of him because he had never seen such movements. Assuming that now he needs to give his 100%, otherwise he risks ending up in the hospital, the guy swings. However, his fist flies through the air, and now Nuna is standing behind him asking where to punch to knock the boxer down. Turning sharply, Dorian begins to rain down quick blows, but none of them hit the girl. A few more seconds, and the guy is already lying on the ground in the grip of Nuna, who with a smile threatens to dislocate his elbow. Dorian begs her not to touch her joints, and when the girl remarks that they are all monsters ready to commit murder without a twinge of conscience, he suddenly admits that he had no other choice. Stating that she is not interested in his story at all, Nuna continues to pull his hand. However, the next moment, she suddenly feels the weight of his head on her leg and realizes that the guy has passed out. Jason tells the girl that she shouldn't have gone overboard with these children and suggests that she get out of here as soon as possible. Stepping out into the busy street again and heading towards the bar, the man asks Nuna if she has obtained the information he needs. According to her, she easily found the case of the attack on a high school girl, but it was absolutely empty. However, something else is curious. There were 2 cases in this case, and one of them was from the detective who was conducting the investigation, and the other was closed, as if everything was planned from the beginning. Nuna is sure that some big shot wants to cover up this investigation, and there is definitely something unclean here. The camera is aimed at Ethan, who is standing in front of another defeated opponent. According to the operator, the stream has a good number of views, but there are not many new nicknames, and this is apparently due to the fact that Dorian did not come. He suggests making another meeting because last time I managed to make very good money on donations during a stream with that girl. Ethan has no memory of which girl he is talking about, and the cameraman reminds him of a girl who knows jujitsu that he broke her knee. Nuna drinks another shot and Jason tells her to stop because they've already drunk about 20 bottles. However, the girl does not even think of stopping. She orders 2 more bottles, and her friend adds ribs to the order. They discuss the fact that June, not relying on the police, decided to avenge what happened to Gina himself. Since the police do not have normal evidence, there is no point in counting on an investigation. June's behavior seems very romantic. She notes that this is absolutely her type, just like Jason in the past. However, the man does not think so, since he is not one of those who go into battle without a specific plan. In addition, according to Jason, this is not a good way because revenge always ends tragically. It seems to Nuna that in any story there is still a chance for a happy ending. And if nothing is done, then there can be no chance. The girl advises Jason to think about what he would do in the boy's place. After another accurate shot in the shooting range, Detective Nick asks Paul if he did what he asked him to do. His partner informs him that June's student was the victim of an attack last week, resulting in the attacker being suspended from class. Nick believes that most likely the guy is tracking down people who, in his opinion, are involved in the Gina case, and if you don't intervene, sooner or later something worse will happen. According to Chuck, on the day of the attack on Gina, all the cameras outside the Golden Office building were deliberately turned off. He does not understand why his older comrade is so interested in a case that he himself told to curtail. When Nick asks why the guy decided to become a policeman, he replies that there is a good salary here and, in the future, a pension. And he went to the criminal department because the more difficult the work, the higher the salary. Besides, he considers it cool. Nick is amused by this because his daughter also thinks that her dad is cool because he catches criminals and makes them answer for their actions. Suddenly, the detective asks Paul what he would do if his orders went against the orders of his superiors, and the partner replies that Nick is his superiors. A few days later, Dorian stands over June, who he has beaten, and asks him to surrender. All bloodied, the guy does not understand why he cannot hit his opponent in any way, even using a grip. He tries to get up again and again gets hit in the face and falls. Peter and Dylan are surprised to see June's battered face as he walks into the gym for a workout. With a smile on his face covered in band-aids, the guy says that he was just playing football at school. The coach interrupts their conversation and calls June to his place to talk to him about something. They walk into the office and the coach starts yelling at the guy because if he's learning jujitsu to fight outside, he can get out of the gym right now. Otherwise, if everything is wrong, then he demands an explanation from June. The coach wants the guy to ask for help if something happens, whether it's school or police matters. June bows to the teacher and apologizes to him, promising to be more careful in the future. Mentally, he is grateful to the coach for his concern, but he believes that everything that happens is his own business. After training, June ponders why he fails in some techniques, and his grips are ineffective against the force. Suddenly, Jason approaches him asking if the guy seriously intends to go all the way. June is surprised by this unexpected question, but he admits that he intends to do what he has decided. The guy does not have time to come to his senses, as Jason puts a protective helmet on him and hits him in the head with a swing. The man decided to start teaching June how to confront the boxer. Continuing to beat the guy, he explains that the most important thing in a real fight is how dangerous and threatening a person's weapon is. In Dorian's case, the weapons are his fast and strong fists, as well as stamina, like a monster. On the other hand, June cannot use his weapon as he tried to grab the opponent a couple of times and also wasted energy on unexpected blows. Just like Dorian defends himself against grappling and only attacks with his fists, June must defend against fists and attack with grapples. This guy's rough fighting style is nothing more than just boxing, and if June manages to put him on the ground, then the fight will take a completely different turn. Therefore, Jason advises every day after the coach leaves to practice your grip and defense against blows almost until you lose your pulse. June followed the man's advice and started practicing every day. Although the training turned out to be quite difficult, Dorian stopped touching him because the hero stopped fighting him, as promised. However, the guy still saw Dorian at school, and the feeling of helplessness and inability to change anything only pushed him forward. June is walking out of the gym into the street where it is pouring rain, and suddenly his phone rings. On the other end, he hears Gina's voice, who called him because, noticing that it was raining, she remembered that a guy always forgets to take an umbrella with him. June laughs, because he actually had to go back to the gym to get a forgotten umbrella. Gina admits that she actually called because she wanted to apologize for that incident in the cafe. According to the guy, she has no need to apologize, and he invites his friend to come to her again. However, Gina intends to come herself this time, as she wants to visit the old people from the gym. June worries if everything will be okay and offers to pick her up and see her off. The girl laughs, trying to convince him that she is not so sour, and suggests that they go for a walk later. Gina hangs up the phone and crosses out the first item on her list called June. Next on the list, she needs to go outside alone during the day, then at night, then go to a noisy place. And the last point is jujitsu. Gina breathes a sigh of relief because she is obviously a strong girl, and at this rate, she will quickly finish everything. After another training session, Jason admits that if he had to bet on one of his opponents, he would bet on Dorian. In turn, June admits that the more time passes, the more it seems to him that he is going in the wrong direction. Suddenly, for no reason at all, Jason offers him to play rock, paper, scissors. Raising his fist, he warns a surprised June that he will throw the stone first. Dorian trains in the gym, hitting a punching bag for the 10,000th time. Approaching him, the coach says that the guy has not paid for the season ticket since last month, and he promises to pay by the end of the next week. However, the coach is more concerned about something else. Because of the person who sometimes comes to Dorian, a lot of people left the gym. The gym suffers heavy losses, and therefore the coach asks the guy if he cannot pay, not to come here again from tomorrow. Dorian leaves the hall late at night as he has stayed behind to clean up there, and suddenly he is called out by June. He jokes about the fact that at a later time, the guy looks even more like a criminal. Dorian suggests that he do nothing today, because he is sure that in the event of a fight, one of them will definitely die. However, June just wants to tell him that he only intends to use grappling this time. Before Dorian has time to understand what this guy wants from him, the hero rushes to him from below in an attempt to knock him to the ground. However, the guy quickly navigates and throws his gym bag at June, thus pushing him away from him. Taking advantage of the fact that his opponent is losing his balance, Dorian reminds him of his past promise to fight without gloves and begins to beat him. Grabbing his fist, June in turn reminds him of her promise to beat up all scoundrels like him. A fight breaks out again, and Dorian notices that his opponent has become more fearless and confident since the last time. Whatever punch he throws, June avoids all possible knockouts. In addition, it is very difficult for a boxer to make good punches when he has to dodge endless holds. Suddenly, the torn sole of Dorian's sneaker clings to a rock. The guy loses his balance, and feeling that he is falling blocks his face, expecting June to punch him in the face. However, the enemy, as promised, grabs and knocks him to the ground. And now June covers Dorian with punches, but he grabs his leg in the half-guard position. Despite this, the hero is in a better position and hopes that he can knock him out. Dorian makes an attempt to throw June off him and get up, but he captures him again, not allowing him to move. Having hit the opponent hard in the face, the hero leans on him and kicks him in a chokehold. Dorian begins to suffocate. Various moments from his childhood float before his eyes. For example, how he and his parents walked in the park. Seeing the face of the hated Jack in front of his eyes, Dorian suddenly gathers all his anger at him into a fist. With a wave of his hand, he delivers a powerful blow to June's side and breaks his ribs. The guy falls to the ground, clutching the wound, while Dorian coughs, trying to catch his breath. June does not understand where the strength suddenly appeared in the enemy, because he was about to lose consciousness. Adjusting his neck, Dorian admits that he thought it would be easy again this time, but now he is going to give it his all. The opponents stand up and June tries to attack, but receives another blow to the sore ribs. Suddenly, Dorian asks him why the guy is going so far and suggests that he stop, not seeing the point in this fight. He tries to explain to June that the world doesn't care at all, that he is trying to change things, no matter how hard he tries. However, the guy does not care about the rest of the world. He only clears the way from such garbage as his opponent. Hearing this, Dorian strikes him a decisive blow and apologizes, as he also has something to defend. Sitting down next to June, he says that he doesn't want to either, because it's every man for himself here. As soon as he begins to talk about what happened, suddenly Jack appears nearby, who is very interested in what Dorian was going to talk about. The guy shudders, not understanding where this man came from, watching the disconnected June with mockery. Jumping to his feet, Dorian asks what he needs, because he kept his promise and paid it off for this month. Jack does not think that the guy will be able to completely pay off all the debt, only by cleaning the children at school. Therefore, another idea came to him, because he has a great business toy with which you can get a lot of money. Jack plans to teach Dorian to make money easier, but the guy in front of him does not seem to listen to him, but looks behind his back. He sees that June has come to his senses, and now he is already standing behind the bandit. Before Jack has time to understand what is happening, the hero grabs his neck. Gina is sitting at an appointment with her therapist, who he asks how her knee is being rehabilitated. The girl is in high spirits, and the doctor notices that her psychological state has become much better. Gina tells how she was a terrible crybaby as a child, and June always came up and stood next to her at such moments. One day, she asked him why he was doing this, and he replied that he should stand so that it would be easier for her to get up. June stood there until the girl stopped crying, and the next day, he went to make the boys who bullied Gina apologize to her. When he came to her all bruised and obrised, he explained it by the fact that he had been injured while playing football. Gina decided to become strong so that her friend would no longer be offended, and so she began to train. June continues to strangle Jack in the hold, and Dorian tries to stop him. He explains that the guy does not understand what he is doing and asks to let go of the man who is already blushing from lack of air. Assistants run to help the boss. One of them orders the others to deal with the guys. Turning sharply, June throws Jack at the bandits running in his direction. After catching his breath, the boss orders to kill the guys immediately. He is so angry that he intends to flay them both. The men rush off and June steps forward to engage them, but Dorian grabs him by the scruff of the neck and pushes him away. He rushes to the attack, and with the first blow kills one of the bandits and breaks the nose of the second. The men are frightened by his aggressive behavior, and the three of them step back. Pushing the useless assistants aside, Jack, taking an iron pipe from the ground, rushes at Dorian himself. The guy tries to keep his distance and manages to dodge blows, but the man is determined to kill him. At the moment when Jack shouts that he will kill not only him, but Dorian's mother, a brick that June threw at him flies into the bandit's face. Taking advantage of the weakening of the enemy, the guy begins to run away and advises Dorian to do the same. The boxer looks at Jack, who shouts that he will definitely find them and drown them in the river. He understands what a difficult situation he finds himself in because of June, but the only thing he can do now is to run too. Dorian asks the guy if they are running to the police, but he advises him to just run for now. The bandits run after them, but the guys are already on the main street where police cars are patrolling. Dorian is angry that June never thinks ahead because he has no idea who he contacted. However, it is clear to the hero that these bandits are engaged in taking money from people. Once in front of Jun's gymnasium, the guys decide to run inside to hide from their pursuers. The bandits looking for them inspect the entire area to take revenge on the offenders of their boss. Approaching the building where the guys hid, Jack guesses where they may be. He orders the assistants to tell anyone who can come to take the bats and head here. Dorian is surprised that the hall can be open at such a time, but Jun explains that this hall is open around the clock. Reaching the place, the boxer rounds his eyes in surprise. 3 guys, Jun's trainers, are sitting and having dinner right here. The elevator doors open, and Jack and his 2 assistants appear on the gym floor. After clarifying whether the others have arrived, the bandit orders them to enter the hall and deal with Jun and Dorian. However, when they open the doors, they find Jason, Peter, and Dylan sitting on the mats, who are surprised by the unexpected visitors. Looking around, Jack asks if the 2 guys they're looking for ran in. Taking a step forward, he makes an assumption that one of the fugitives is training in this hall. However, Jason screams so loudly that Jack freezes in surprise, not understanding what is going on. Rolling his eyes, he warns the bandit that before standing on the mats, he needs to take off his shoes. Because carpets are very difficult to clean, Jack wonders if he wants to say anything else, to which the guy threatens to call the police if they don't leave right away. In response, the bandit begins to laugh and his friends threaten violence. Taking a mouthful of saliva, Jack spits it right on the tatami at Jason's feet. Laughing, he apologizes and promises to wipe it with the sole of his shoe. Lighting a cigarette, Jack threatens to close this hall and ironically begins to tell the guy how sports differ from real life. However, he does not have time to finish, as Jason, having taken the phone, is already talking to the police. Jack swings a piece of rebar and knocks the phone out of the guy's hands. Jason calmly continues to stand in his place, looking at the empty palm. Jack offers to give him another chance. The guy must bring 2 fugitives to him, otherwise he will smash the whole hall to pieces. Suddenly, he begins to look at Jason, wondering what he was doing since he has cigarette but scars and a knife on his body. The guy whispers that he will definitely regret his words, but Jack, not hearing, orders him to speak louder. Leaning closer to the thug, Jason says he'll regret not letting him call the police. Crushing a smoking cigarette with his fingers, he talks about the responsibility that people should bear for their actions. Pulling out a new cigarette, Jack says that in the end, everyone turns each other in, even if they are a family. Suddenly, unexpectedly for everyone, Jason replies that he will tell him everything. However, to do this, he offers to play rock, paper, scissors, and if he loses, he will definitely tell. Jack thinks that the guy is bullying him, but Jason notes that if he refuses to play, he will automatically lose. Confused, the bandit shakes his fist and throws the stone away, and his opponent opens his palm as if he is going to show the paper. However, the next moment, Jason punches Jack in the face with a swing. Sitting with Jun in the office near the trophy stand, Dorian writes a message to his mother. He asks her to leave the house as soon as possible and not to return there until he informs her that it is safe to return there. After receiving a response from his mother, he exhales in relief and throws his head back, and Jun wonders how he can sit on the phone in such a situation. Then Dorian admits that he wrote to his mother because if bandits come to their home, she will be in trouble. He says that these people are very angry and clarifies whether everything will be fine. Jun suggests that we see what happens next, because Jason told them to hide. Returning to what Dorian told him earlier, the hero wants to know what happened then. The guy thinks that he has nothing to lose. Everything has already gone wrong, and if he tells, then nothing will change. He says that there are martial arts competitions on a tournament system that are secretly held in some schools. Everyone has to pay an entry fee, and the higher you go, the more money you get from the total prize pool. However, now they have made some new activity. Regardless of the desire to participate, they attract interested people by making them play a game of survival. The person who participated is given some amount of money, and that's when Scott brought Gina. Dorian suggests that his words will sound like an apology, but he claims that he did not want to look at such a thing and left there during the game. As soon as he finishes speaking, Jun punches him in the face with a swing. Grabbing Dorian by the collar of his jacket, he says that he should have stopped everything and reported what was happening to the police. Jun believes that with his inaction, the guy has only proved that he is no better than those scum. Dorian does not resist. because deep down he understands that the guy is right. At that moment, the sound of a bang is heard outside the door, and both realize that their pursuers must already be here. Pressing his hand to his cheek burning from the blow, Jack sits on the floor beside himself with anger and threatens to kill the offender. He orders the gang members gathered around him to deal with Jason by any means necessary. With feigned chagrin, the guy notices that he is very bad at playing rock, paper, and scissors, and therefore he will not tell him anything. The bandits begin to attack Jason, but he, noticing that he is not in the mood today, easily fights off their blows. Another moment, and the guy who attacked him collapses from wild pain due to a broken knee joint. Another bandit heads towards Jason, who immediately flies away from a sharp blow to the face. Jack yells at his assistants, not understanding why they are attacking one by one and not the whole gang. He orders the two behind Jason to be captured as well. Peter, grabbing Dylan by the arm, suggests that he call the police, but the friend left the phone at the entrance. The bandits run towards the guys to take them hostage, but Jason, grabbing a belt from the floor, swings it, knocking out the opponents. Wrapping his belt around his fist, the guy informs the bandits of his strong hatred for gangsters. He warns that those who come here with weapons will be the first to break their backs or necks. The bandit, whom Jason strangles with a belt, falls unconscious right in front of the feet of his friends. Deciding that the guy is just showing off, the gangsters rush at him three at once. Immediately catching one of them, Jason easily breaks his arm. The guy screams in pain, and now his friend is banging his head against the bat of the third, guided by the confident and strong hand of the opponent. After finishing him, Jason uses his belt to twist the third bat out of his hands, leaving him unarmed. Another second, and the bat flies right in the face of the fourth bandit, who ran to help them. And now the third bandit screams in pain, because Jason, declaring that he is death itself, twists his arm. Peter yells at Jason that a huge big man is rushing at him from behind, but the guy easily deals with him, breaking the bandit's arm. Then he throws a belt around his neck and, twisting it, begins to strangle the attacker. Standing among the bandits lying on the floor, Jason asks who else is there, because he was still going to go for food. Jack is impressed by his power, and the guy, in his opinion, served in some special forces like a movie hero. He laughs. After all, even now, as in the movies, there are hostages, and according to all the laws of the genre, Jason must sacrifice himself to save them. Turning around, the guy sees that two bandits with rebar have grabbed Peter and Dylan. Jack notices that they are outnumbered and smiles, hiding a knife behind his back. Pulling it out, the ganger thinks about how to hit the opponent. But Jason calmly suggests that he not cross the point of no return.